Mr. Zhu was in a court case in front of Judge Judy. He was alleging that the defendant had punched him a couple of years ago. Judge Judy asked him to tell the story of what happened. He told her that he was at a breakfast brunch cafe in San Mateo, California with his father, brother, mother, aunt, and uncle. There were a total of 6 people, including Mr. Zhu. The restaurant was busy and they were waiting outside with around 15 to 20 other people. It was around noon on a Sunday and the date was the 20th of December, 2015. Mr. Zhu needed to use the restroom and was going into the restaurant when the alleged incident occurred. Mr. Pog and his family had finished brunch and were leaving the restaurant. Pog was holding the door open for his wife and 2 sons, who were 8 and 9 years old. However, Mr. Zhu scooted past them to go into the restaurant, which Judy judged as rude. Mr. Pog told Mr. Zhu that his actions were rude, to which Mr. Zhu replied that he was not rude, and that Mr. Pog was rude. After this exchange, Mr. Pog left the restaurant. Zhu went to the bathroom, then left the restaurant to meet his family outside. When he approached the front door of the restaurant, he saw Pog come into the restaurant with a different outfit and Pog asked if he wanted to fight him. The conversation took place immediately inside the restaurant, right at the door. Zhu stated that a man, referred to as the Nut, had approached him in an aggressive manner inside the restaurant. He had told the man to get away from him and the man eventually left the restaurant. But as soon as he followed the man outside, he was punched in the face. The altercation had dragged on in the criminal court for 2 years and 2 misdemeanor charges were filed, but they were eventually dismissed due to lack of evidence. Now, 2 years later, Mr. Zhu was in front of Judge Judy seeking financial compensation for being hit. Judge Judy questioned him about the events leading up to the punch and pointed out that Zhu wasn't thinking when he followed the man outside after he had just left the restaurant. She also mentioned that the man, who had gone to his car and changed his clothes, had clearly come back to the restaurant looking for trouble. Despite the fact that the altercation happened quickly, Judge Judy humorously suggested that an intelligent person would have stayed inside the restaurant and not followed the man outside. Mr. Zhu explained that he didn't have time to think and the entire confrontation happened quickly. In the end, Judy asked Mr. Zhu if he had indeed been punched in the face, to which he replied yes. She also confirmed that the charges had been dismissed and that was why he was in front of her, seeking financial compensation for being hit. Pog appeared in front of Judy to give his version of events. The initial contact was at a restaurant where Mr. Pog was holding the door open for his wife when a man, referred to as Mr. I can't wait to go to the bathroom, scooted past them, physically walking through Mrs. Pog. Judge Judy corrected Mr. Pog and stated that the man walked around her, not through her. Mr. Pog insisted that the man was in his wife's space and was aggressive. The man spat in Mr. Pog's face and told him that he was rude. After the altercation, Mr. Pog and his family left the restaurant and went to their car. He put on a jacket and went back into the restaurant to confront the man, but his wife told him to let it go. Judy asked Mrs. Pog if she was annoyed that her husband left her and their 2 children in the car while he went back to confront the man. But she stated that the car was only 5 steps from the door and it happened quickly. The judge praised Mr. Pog for being a good husband, who held the door open for his wife and opened the car door for her. However, when asked if Mrs. Pog could see what was happening when her husband went back into the restaurant, she replied that she could not. Judy concluded the hearing stating that she did not want Mrs. Pog to lie to her. Pog explained that he went to the restaurant to tell the young man who was rude to him earlier that he was rude again. He walked in the restaurant and found the young man standing inside the door waiting for his table. He approached the young man and told him that he was rude, but the young man approached him in a confrontational manner and backed him out the door. And he told the young man to take his hands off him, but he didn't listen and instead kept coming forward. Pog ended up striking the young man with a forearm in self-defense. Judge Judy asked Mr. Zhu, the young man who was involved in the altercation, if he put his hands on Mr. Pog. Zhu answered that he absolutely did not put his hands on him. Judy then asked to see the police report and Mr. Zhu's medical bill. The medical bill showed that Zhu had a laceration on his face as a result of the altercation. Judy pointed out that Mr. Pog should not have gone back into the restaurant and changed his clothes before going in. She stated that it was Mr. Pog's problem that the altercation happened in the first place, and that if someone calls you rude, you shouldn't let it affect you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. We're done. I think the young man learned a valuable lesson that day. I think her decision was excellent.